I think that a lot of times people come in and they say, well, here's what I need, and here's what and I want this and I want that in a person, and he or she has to have this and this and that. And as we get to know them, we sort of start to discover that a lot of times what they say they want is not in complete alignment with who they are and what they need to be the best person, what they need to feel secure, what they need to feel adored. It's not in alignment. So that's kind of where we come in, where we help people define that or refine it. Your list is great, but if it's not in alignment with what you fundamentally need as a person, then it's useless. It's just like when people say, well, my type is, I'm usually attracted to this type of person, and we like to say, well, forget it, because that type has not been working for you, which is why we're sitting here. So why don't you let go of a little bit of your ideal and make room for something or someone to surprise the heck out of you. So it's a little bit of that mindset.
Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, avid book reader, and developing salsa dancer. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who've gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 26 of the Amani Experience Podcast. For this episode, we have Cristina Morara, and she is from Stellarhitch. My favorite parts about this episode are two things. First, the love advice she gives is very enlightening, so make sure you listen closely to that. And then when she discusses is what you want, what you need. So I think that discussion is very, very enlightening as well, very informative. Take a listen. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure you subscribe and also leave us a rating. And to the show we go. I'm going to read our guest's bio today, and then we'll get right to the show. Our guest today is the CEO and co-founder of Stellarhitch Private Matchmaking, which is a boutique matchmaking company for upscale professionals and is based in Los Angeles, serving clients nationwide. A husband and wife team that has been in business for almost 10 years. We would like to welcome Cristina Morara to the Amani Experience Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes, we are excited to have you here. And what I love to do is, for my guests, I like to do like a little geographic check-in. So right now, where are we?
We're at Casa del Mar Hotel in Santa Monica.
Yes, and so that's where we're based. We're in Santa Monica. And where were you born and raised?
I was born in Northern Virginia and raised in Fairfax County.
Right, so we're both from the D.C. area. I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, so other side of the bridge, but that's where we are, so that's cool. Why don't you start us off and kind of explain to us how you got started in your business? Take us through, because I know you had like a wine bar in Sarasota, Florida, and you first started as like an ad agent back in New York agency. So kind of walk us through that really quickly, your little journey to now.
Ooh, okay. I'll go all the way that far. I did after I graduated from college, and I went to Villanova. We went to worked in Manhattan in advertising, and then I found myself in Los Angeles working in casting, and I started working as a real people casting director, and then I ended up moving to Milan, Italy, working in production and having the time of my life. And to add to that experience, I met the man of my dreams, and we got married. We moved to to Florida and opened up a wine bar. So that brings us to how the business got started. And we were noticing that the people who would come into our little intimate wine bar were curious. A lot of them were singles, they were upscale, but they always complained about the same thing. After they started eating and ordering their bolognese and sangiovese, they would say, hey, does your husband have a single friend? Or, can you help me? They would bring in their dates they would actually come in and like the day before and bring in or say, okay, tonight I'm going to bring in so-and-so. I want you to, you know, pour the Sangiovese if you think she's a keeper, or give her the cab if you think she's a one-off. And there were several gentlemen who would do this. And I remember thinking, okay, there's something wrong here where you're not trusting yourself and you're trusting me. You know, I don't know you that well. But mostly I remember asking questions like, hey, are you, you know, what are you going to ask her? How are you going to lead? What kind of experience do you want her to have? And they would look at me with like their eyes glazed over like, what? I'm just going to show up, you know, I'm going to wing it. So that's when we started to realize, okay, hold on, there's something here. I studied psychology, and I think our, you know, the casting background really is essential in a lot of ways, because that's what we're doing. We're, you know, we're trying to work with people, help people, but also cast for them, cast for the most important role of their lives. So that's kind of how it was born in a nutshell. We got the idea for Stellarhitch.
Nice. So, you know, full transparency, you're the first matchmaker I ever met. And so before I moved to LA, I didn't even know that really they existed. I thought that people just kind of talked about them, but it wasn't really a legitimate profession, like unicorns, but in professional world. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely big business. It's very successful for you. And so on our show, we always talk about people who used to work in the corporate life and then transferred to maybe a more creative venture, which this is definitely very creative. So what made you make the switch from corporate life to doing something kind of more creative?
You know, that's a great question. And when I was working at one of the top advertising agencies in New York, you know, I felt very blessed to be there. I was at Ogilvy. And but there was something missing for me. They were grooming me to be an account person and you know, serve American Express and AT&T. And I remember thinking, oh, that sounds awful. And I wasn't as, I don't know, there's a lot of, you know, team playing or teamwork and, you know, a lot of accolades for the corporate achievements. And I remember just thinking, what are we doing here? Where it just didn't seem that meaningful for me. So I knew it wasn't for me. And I think having the opportunity to move to LA and just get thrown into casting, and sort of depend on myself and, you know, how to figure out, oh my gosh, we need to find, you know, these type of people. Where do I go? It was sort of a sink or swim situation with the person who trained me, and I loved it. I loved it. So,
how has casting helped you, and your experience in casting helped you as a matchmaker?
I really feel like it was fundamental. It's like all this background work. I mean, when we were casting for real people, I mean, basically we would get a brief and it would say, okay, I need you to find, you know, Italian grandmothers, you know, real Italian grandmothers for this ragu commercial. And it was up to me to figure out, okay, where are they? You know, you know, at the time it was in Los Angeles, where are they? You know, are they going to be in these communities? Are they going to be playing bocce? Or, you know, you had to really dig and figure out, where are these type of women going to be? And it's very, very similar to what we're doing, you know? Yes. So it really has been, again, fundamental to what we're doing.
So you've been in business for almost 10 years now. What do you think is important for creative professionals, such as you and myself, to succeed in today's business environment?
I'm really big into just marching to the beat of your own drum in a lot of ways. I think that sometimes people get caught up in what other people are doing, what the competition is doing, questioning what if this doesn't work. And I really encourage people to think about, well, what if it does? And it doesn't matter if other people are doing it. You're going to put your own spin on it. And you're going to be doing it differently and, you know, in your own way. So at least that worked for me, you know, never really looking around what other people are doing, just really try to make your own mark and do the best that you can do and, you know, define yourself.
Definitely. When was it that you realized that, okay, we started our matchmaking company and it's working and we need to kind of go full throttle and just go for it? When was that kind of turning point in your career, so to speak?
Well, when you start, you don't, you're kind of using a lot of instinct and, trying to figure it out. So I think it happened rather quickly when we saw that, oh my gosh, we're getting calls. Like we, this is happening. We kind of had that backward problem of like, how do we get clients? Like we built it and we were starting kind of working on the structure of, building the database, but we just got more clients and we realized what to do with. So we had a champagne problem, I believe is what they call it.
First world problem.
Yes, we were very lucky.
Okay, cool. Do you have any memorable kind of clients or people that you helped out, the first couple of years that really, still you'd like to share their stories as you kind of talk to new clients?
We really do. And it seems that a lot of the stories are of the clients who were not sure. Like there's one in particular that I always like to think about where probably because they just had a baby, but they had a date. We sent them out, we set them up, and then I get feedback the next day, and he was very like, oh, it was an amazing date. We laughed, we cried. It was 4 hours. It was so meaningful, and she was a little neutral, and she just wasn't sure if there was enough chemistry there, and I let her know that that's something that could really take a little bit of time. It doesn't have to hit you over the head and where you see the clouds part, Pavarotti in the background. Like you really need to just relax on that for a minute because it can show up. The short of the long is that it took me about 20 minutes to convince her to go on a hike with him. As a second day, I said, just go. You like hiking? You can go check it out and see how it's just get your hike in and maybe get a little bit more information on him. Anyway, to this day, and that was 3 years ago, she always brings it up and thanks me because she was able to see him in a different light, and the chemistry definitely showed up, and it is still there. And it's just a great lesson for, I think, people who are quick to judge, waiting for something, amazing to happen when it can really happen, in subsequent dates as you get to know someone.
Yeah. And if I recall correctly, you have, is it a 3-date rule that you like for people to go on 3 dates before they make a decision?
We highly encourage it. It is not always followed, much to our dismay, but at least 2, because really the first date is so wonky. It really should be called a meet and greet. People don't know what they're doing. They're just there to sort of break the ice. The real date happens on the second date, where you finally settle into who you are, who they are, and you could say, okay, now let's see how I really feel with this person.
Right. Good. I try to follow that rule that you taught me. So
I am very impressed with you, Amani.
Thank you. It's a great segue to the next question. Why do you love what you do?
I can't think of a greater gift. I really, really can't, to not only help people get out of their own way and offer a new perspective of how to sort of communicate better with someone and potentially get themselves in the right frame of mind, get them emotionally fit to meet the right person, but then to actually provide the right person and to be able to say, wow, I did that. It's a game changer. It's a life changer. To be able to have that possibility is just it's an incredible honor and humbling for us.
Definitely. And for you specifically, like, what do you think are some of the most important characteristics that you have to really work with a variety of people who are quite demanding and maybe have, a little jaded because, it's hard out here when you're single. So what are some characteristics that you have to continue to maintain to really help your clients on a consistent basis?
That's a great question. The first quality is flexibility. We really need to be flexible and not take things too personally. I mean, it's tough because you need to be compassionate and recognize that it is difficult for a lot of people, and usually when they come to you, it's because they've tried a lot of avenues. So I'm very aware of that. But also passionate. We're extraordinarily passionate about what we do and sharing the insight that we've learned in the last, almost 10 years of what makes people tick. And again, not take things too personally.
Yes. Kind of like life, correct?
Absolutely. You need levity in life. You really do. The person who can laugh at themselves and at things, or really is someone who's going to have a better quality life.
Yes, levity. That's a great word. I'll write that one down. What is something that scares you?
Boredom. I think that's why we chose this as well, because everything is different. Every time I meet someone new, it's like opening up a new book, a new chapter. So it's a new possibility to help someone, a new possibility to have them see more of the truth, and to be able to, again, share our knowledge and expertise and have them attain what they're looking for. So always something new is what we seek.
So boredom, that scares you. Now, in your industry, which I was shocked to find, but there's numerous matchmakers. So matchmaking is a crowded space. How do you rise above all the noise and competition and distinguish yourself and your company?
Again, it's something that we've done in a very instinctive manner. We've sort of kept our head down and said, okay, we're doing it. It's this husband and wife. I don't see anyone else doing it that way. We like to give a male and female perspective. But I think what sets us apart from other matchmaking or dating companies is that ours is a two-step process where we really work with our clients beforehand. Someone said recently, oh, you're going to try to squeeze out the crazy. And I was like, no, that's not what we're doing. But we're trying to get people more in alignment with who they are, what they say they want, and help them understand how they're landing with people. Because let's face it, if whatever is, things aren't working for them for one reason or another, so we try to look at that, pay attention to that, and encourage them to do things a little bit differently so their result will be different. So nobody's doing that, and for us, I think that's our secret weapon in what we're doing, because by being able to do that, people are getting different results. And so by the time we introduce them to new people, they have a different mindset, and it's usually a winning mindset.
True. One of my favorite parts about working with you and your husband was when you give people advice on like how to dress and kind of how to properly look at dates and everything, because there were some blind spots that I had that you quickly helped me improve. So I really like that part about the whole service. So
thank you. Well, working with my husband who's Italian and worked in fashion for many years is definitely an asset. But again, it's we always try to emphasize looks and your presentation really matter, especially when you're dating. So people need to pay attention to that. So I'm glad that you appreciated that part.
Yeah. I had to change many things in my wardrobe, but I'm grateful for that.
Not that many, Amani. Come on.
Thank you. How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
It's definitely not a favorite one, but it was a meaningful one, and I still am trying to figure out how it's been helpful. But it was I think it's helped me be incredibly transparent in what we're doing. Favorite failure sounds like such an oxymoron. I love it. I think probably one of the biggest failures that has really set us up for not repeating it is not following my instincts. I met with someone that we started working with, and I recall I had an instinct about this person, and so did my husband, and I just wanted to save her, find her what she was looking for, and at the end our instincts proved correct. So we are now extraordinarily selective, and it's a good thing. It was a tough lesson to learn, because it really physically affected me when things didn't go the right way, but it was definitely a lesson that needed to be learned, especially in this business.
Good, great example. So I was on Netflix watching Chelsea Handler, and I think it was the first episode where she was trying to get, paired up with a man, and who is the matchmaker that she selected but you? I was like, oh, I know her. I know them. What was it like working with Chelsea Handler?
Oh my gosh, it was such a trip, especially because we were they completely kept us in the dark. And basically, they said, okay, we're rolling. And that's the minute that we met her.
Oh.
So we really, they wanted it to be super authentic. But it was wonderful because I'm a huge fan. And, we really wanted to make sure that this was something that she was really serious about finding someone. But essentially, when you're working with 1 week to find 3 guys, and my initial 3 fall out, all the last minute, it was, let's just say it was, a lot of it was, made for TV. But she's definitely pretty amazing, and I like what she's doing with her voice now. So it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Well done. How do you handle your critics? And I ask this because many people hire matchmakers and they're just so upset that they didn't get like Prince Charming or Princess Charming or whomever. So how do you handle like the critics?
It's getting easier and easier because someone's failure is I feel bad about. I mean, I think so much of it has to do with mindset and timing. So I don't particularly enjoy it, and I take responsibility as well. I mean, we're kind of a team, and we're in this together. So, but a lot of times the writing is on the wall, and it really is true. I think sometimes people aren't fully ready to be vulnerable and do what it takes to really be in a healthy relationship, and so part of it is again, it's what they're willing to do. We'll be here to provide the best of the best, but I think a lot of times we've seen that people just aren't ready, and that manifests in different ways. So it's disappointing.
All right. Tell me about the darkest time in your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
Amani, I think there are a lot of dark moments when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, there's sometimes you get plagued by, whether it's in the beginning or in the middle of like self-doubt, like, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? Am I going to get to where I want to be? Especially even when you're in a business dealing with people's delicate emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I've stepped back before thinking, whoa, what is going on here? So, I think it's something fairly inevitable if you're an entrepreneur to sort of go through that and have a dark moment every now and then. And I think what I try to do to persevere is take a break, take a step back, and really dig deep to understand my emotions. How do you feel about this? And is this something that is still important to you and going to give you meaning to your life? Do you think you can help people? And when I boil it all down and look at my intentions, they're always pure. I always want to, again, I look at it as a gift to be able to help people. So that's what sustains me. It's very humbling to say, wow, this is what I get to do, and that keeps me going.
Good. Well said.
Thank you.
Who was the most influential person for you growing up?
My father gave me my wings, and my mother provided the unconditional nest. So I really think it was, it's been a beautiful combination to get me to go as far as I have, always knowing that there's a place for me should the chips fall, and always knowing that I can really, that was the message, you can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
So I would say both of them really have been a wonderful influence.
Good. And when you say he gave you your wings, what do you mean by that? I've never heard that before.
Well, I think from an early age, he really convinced me that I could do whatever I want to do.
Okay,
and
good.
I believed it.
Which is true. Great advice.
Right. I think giving a child the gift of self-esteem is enormous.
Yes.
So yes.
All right. Good. So I read something that you wrote before, And it said here that you mentioned that people need to fill up their own cup first. What do you mean by that?
I mean that when you're looking to spend the rest of your life with someone, being in a position where you have or you are currently fulfilling your own needs, where you know how to cultivate your passions, where you know how to become whole. I think when you are whole and then you are looking for someone to share that wholeness with is really what I mean. That's really when you're going to get into a healthy relationship instead of looking for someone to complete you. So it's really all about taking good care of yourself and doing the things, not saying, oh, well, I only do that when, I'm dating someone, or I only will do that when I'm in a relationship. Why? Aren't you worth it? Or you hear someone say, oh, no, if I ask them, oh, do you cook? No, I don't cook just for one. Well, why? Aren't you the most important person in your life? So it's, we're big believers in that and big self-care and living a good life for yourself.
Yes, self-care is very important. So we're going to go back to 21-year-old Cristina. I think you were probably at Villanova at the time.
Yes, I was.
And we're going to go sit down with 21-year-old Cristina and give her some advice. What kind of advice would you give 21-year-old yourself, Cristina, based on what you know now?
Probably focus a little bit more on the future. I remember being so carpe diem. That was my motto. Live for today, which was wonderful. I had a very, very wonderful time in my 20s and 30s, and it's great. But I think I wish I had a little bit more focus on what could come next. Just a little bit. Not many regrets, but and also probably to care less about what others may think, and I think that comes with age. But yeah, just really carve your own path and really don't worry about the rest.
Great. What is one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
Oh, yes. That would be learning the art of surrender. And it's taken me a long time, but I am currently still always in the process. But I think what people don't realize is that, we think we have this false sense of control, but really there's tremendous power in letting go and acceptance. And I used to think, oh no, that means that I like the way things are, and and I have to change it because I don't. And it really doesn't mean that. It really just means, this is what it is right now, and be open to it and let it go, because that's the only thing you can control is your reaction to things, your perception. You can't control other people, you can't control circumstances. So I'm really building that muscle, and it's just it's been a wonderful journey. A little painful,
yes,
but definitely wonderful, because I'm coming out on the other side.
And what advice do you have to people who are trying to build that muscle as well?
I think it's just less doing and more being. And what I mean by that is I think we're in a culture where everyone feels like, oh my God, I have to do. What do I have to do to get there? What do I have to do? I have to be productive. No, people aren't spending enough time being quiet, being silent. And that's where the truth lies. And that's where your power lies. And so I think it's really just, not reacting so much and just accepting. And, you don't have to do a million things. You need to, that's all about external things. It's really building your internal world, because at the end of the day, that's what you have. That's where your power lies is whether it's, try to meditate, but, be with nature, but just be quiet and reconnect with yourself, because that's where your true power lies.
Excellent. Great advice. Every great person has a sentence. what is your sentence? For example, my sentence would be, I help people unlock their creativity by teaching them how to DJ. What is your sentence?
I like that.
Thank you.
I help people get out of their own way so that they have a higher chance of falling in love with themselves first, hopefully, and with the person of their dreams.
Fantastic. Great sentence. What is one new habit or 2 or 3 new habits that you've added to your daily routine in the past year or so that have been most beneficial?
Definitely meditation. I read something by Tony Robbins. It was just a quote, and it was during a time that I needed. And basically he said, in terms of at least starting to meditate, if you don't have 10 minutes, you don't have a life. And I remember being challenged by that, saying, that is so true. You're absolutely right. So I stepped up to the challenge and I started, and the 10 minutes has gone to 30, and it's been a game changer for me. It's how I start my day, and it's how I process things, and it's how I find my power again. And it's something that needs to happen every single day, and also spending more time in nature, less time online, and more time in real life.
Nice. So we're really big readers here on the Amani Experience podcast. So if there was 1, 2, or 3 or more books that you think people should stop what they're doing right now and read them right away, what books would those be?
Well, right now the first couple books that come to my mind are books that I recommend to our clients or anyone who's really looking to be in a healthy relationship. And the first one is called Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix, Hendrix, and it really just makes so much sense and helps you get very clear on healthy relationships. And the second one is called Attached, and I'm almost finished with it, but it's wonderful, and it's just about adult attachment theory, and it's essential to people who are dating and out there, and because there are a lot of mistakes that people make and they're not even aware of it, and so much of it has to do with their attachments. So that's by Amir Levine. So those are my first 2 that are love and dating related that I think could be helpful.
Great recommendations. We'll add that to the show notes.
Okay.
So I love this quote that I read that you said when you say, is what you want always what you need? What do you mean when you say that?
You've done your homework. I think that a lot of times people come in and they say, well, here's what I need, and here's what and I want this, and I want that in a person, and he or she has to have this and this and that. And as we get to know them, we sort of start to discover that a lot of times what they say they want is not in complete alignment with who they are and what they need to be the best person, what they need to feel secure, what they need to feel adored. It's not in alignment. So that's kind of where we come in, where we help people define that or refine it. Your list is great, but if it's not in alignment with what you fundamentally need as a person, then it's useless. It's just like when people say, well, my type is, I'm usually attracted to this type of person, and you like to say, well, forget it, because that type has not been working for you, which is why we're sitting here. So why don't you let go of a little bit of your ideal and make room for something or someone to surprise the heck out of you. So it's a little bit of that mindset.
Yeah, great quote. How would you fill in the blank? Love is
powerful, and it's also a verb. It's something you do. It's not just something that you feel. And it's complicated, and it's messy, and it's beautiful, and it is the only reason why we're here.
right. Yes. The little hopeless romantic in Amani is coming out here. Woo! How can people find you online? Like your website, social media?
So our website is stellarhitch.com. And we're on Instagram, which is it's Stellarhitch, and I'm trying really hard with that.
Good. Keep going. It takes time.
It does. And our Facebook, we also have a Facebook page just called Stellarhitch. So yeah, we're old school, but I'm learning how to get more, out there. We're very, one-on-one kind of people, but you can get some information on us.
Good. And then just general, let's say, love advice for people who are out there and maybe they've kind of, we'll say, like given up on finding their significant other or whatever. What would you advise them?
Please don't give up. There's always someone for everyone. There really is. So much of it has to do with timing, but also you have to change something. You really do. I think people have to say yes more. People who've given up are generally, they stay in. They've thrown in the towel, but you're just going to perpetuate that if you don't make a move. So I think just being a little bit more open, just connecting with people. I mean, again, that's why we're here, is to connect. So the more you can create opportunities to connect with other people and do things that you love, you will send out a signal to the universe and to other people that you are open and you're trying to get your groove on. And I think that that's attractive to people, especially when you're giving that green light.
Good. Well, we appreciate you being on the show. I love, the service that you provide, the advice that you give, especially the work that you do with me. I'm so appreciative. I recommend you all the time whenever I have someone that's looking. So
you're so sweet.
I love your company, your husband, what you do. So keep going. And then I always let my guests in the show with any general advice just for people, especially when they're thinking about like starting their business or kind of, pursuing their creative pursuits. So we'll let you kind of have the last word, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I think that something important is to know who you are. And I'm not going to, a lot of this is instinctive, but I think if you're starting a new business, I think you just have to really know who you are and what you're doing differently than other people. So whether or not you're specializing in, but for me, the key word is differentiate. How are you differentiating yourself from other companies that are doing the same thing? And, really, really, really spend time figuring that out. And then you're going to find out what your secret weapon is, and then that becomes your brand. And so spend time looking at that, because there's nothing more important than your brand.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
For sure.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience Podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on, and share this podcast with anyone who you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon on our next episode.